Good afternoon, Science Forum participants, Director General Kele, ambassadors in the room, heads of institutions, the Science Forum family. Welcome to the closing session of Science Forum. I can see you still igniting conversations about science, but I'd appreciate if we could settle down so we can wrap up on time and go through this exciting final session, final plenary session of Science Forum. When the Minister opened Science Forum earlier this week, he gave you an idea of what awaited you. There were side events, 38. There were about 90 parallel plenary sessions in 7 tracks, and there were also about 90 exhibitions. And included in that was all the social program of networking. So I hope you've made use of all of this over the week and have enjoyed and made new connections both locally and internationally. For me, when I look around the room, I was thinking how best to describe Science Forum. And I thought I'll pick on the letter I of the alphabet, because our theme for Science Forum this year was igniting conversations about science, placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, education, industry, and society. So the first I obviously was igniting conversations. We couldn't get colleagues into the room quick enough. You were in the networking sessions, you were in the panel discussions, you were in the exhibition areas, and that's exactly what we wanted. So, great. But you were also inspiring. I think there's young scientists, the youth, who inspired us, but also everyone who's participated in Science Forum has served as an inspiration. Of course, then there was innovation. If you walked around the exhibition areas, if you paid attention to the panel discussions, there was innovation. And the nice thing, we're celebrating 10 years of Science Forum, and Science Forum has evolved. The I for the focus is inclusivity and inclusion, and that's very important for us as the South African Department of Science and Technology. And over the 10 years, Science Forum has really become inclusive. And my final I, to sum it all up, is impact. Because I think really the impact has been phenomenal, and we hope it will continue from these conversations. So that's just a very quick kind of brief on what everyone, I hope, has experienced. Maybe later on we'll come back to a few other I's, so maybe you can think about, if there's any other I's you experienced during Science Forum. But now, this closing plenary is actually celebrating and reflecting on science diplomacy in action. And we have an exciting program. We have panel discussions. We have Science Diplomacy Awards, we have Exhibition Awards, and we have our address by our DG. So I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Derek Schwartz, who's our moderator for the panel. And I know Dr. Schwartz probably needs no introduction, but I will say that currently Dr. Schwartz serves as the Science, Technology, and Innovation expert at the department, and he was also special advisor to Minister Nzimande.
Thank you, Vinnie. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Derek Schwartz, and I've been asked to moderate 2 panels. I think it will be in fairly quick succession because of the economy of time. So I hope you will bear with me as I have to balance the, unenviable task of not seeing in decent haste on the one hand, and on the other hand, making sure that we can give the panelists, sufficient time, within brevity, of course, on some closing messages. If we think back about the week now, what are the most seminal takeouts that we would like to have? I'm going to ask the panelists for the first panel to come on stage, please. And my colleagues, Ambassador of Switzerland to South Africa, His Excellency Ambassador Mirko Manzoni. If you can, thank you very much. And the High Commissioner of Singapore, I understand, is running late. His Excellency High Commissioner Zanif Arif Mantaha. I believe he would be joining us on stage as soon as he arrives. The Ambassador of Cuba to South Africa, His Excellency Ambassador Farqui Rodriguez Pinello. Thank you. The Deputy CEO of Huawei, South Africa, Mr. Charles Cheng. And last but not least, South Africa's senior SDI representative in Brussels, Ms. Judy Mabuza. Please make yourselves comfortable, colleagues. Thank you very much. Now, the rubric under which I think we wanted to have this organize this session is really wrap up closing remarks on why science diplomacy matters, and why science diplomacy matters, particularly at this historical conjuncture in the world, where this massive fragmentation is taking place at the end, presumably, of the post-1990 world consensus, or the order that was there, that had ruled the world for the last 30 years, and the polarization, if you like, of the world into new constellations of political, social, economic forces as well. And this is a seminal moment in contemporary history, of course. It's a mercurial moment because we don't know where it is going. But as an Italian political theorist many years ago, Antonio Gramsci, described as an interregnum, we know that the old order is breaking down, and we know that there are the elements of a new order awakening, but we don't know quite what the nature of that new constellation of international forces would look like, and the trajectories along which the world will move. And it raises the question, I guess, in my own mind, but perhaps the panelists can reflect on this: how can we harness the potential of science diplomacy as the world is going through this difficult, convoluted process of finding a pathway, hopefully, towards a paradigm that will be more stable in the next decade or so? How do we use science diplomacy as an instrument to make sure that whatever arises, through this chaos that we see today, would at least be able to epitomize and express the values of solidarity, internationalism, cooperation? We are a cooperative species, as Bowles and Ginty many years wrote. Homo sapiens, over the last 300,000 years, our capacity for survival, the fact that we spread from 20,000 human beings, the last ice age, to over 8 billion people in the next few years, suggests that we as a species have been able to do this because we work together. How do we uphold this value of cooperation, collaboration, sharing, mutual interdependence, solidarity for each other, and so on, as this refracturing takes place? And what role can science diplomacy play as an instrument in fostering that? So I'm going to ask my colleagues, and perhaps we can start from my left, and I guess your right mostly. If my colleagues can, just for 3 minutes, distill the essence of what they think about this issue as well. Mr. Cheng? Yeah.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles Cheng. I'm the Deputy CEO of Huawei South Africa. And thank you, moderator, for your excellent introduction. And I think I totally agree with you. And we are a company. We are a company operating in South Africa more than 27 years, and we have a very wide portfolio across multiple domains like telecommunications, industrial digitalizations, and of course smart device consumers. I think most of the people here maybe know Huawei as famous consumer brand, our smartphones, wearable devices. So by doing that, we have about, globally, we have about 100,000 R&D staff. So science is not our business, but science is part of our foundation, our business, and contribute a lot to our global success. So I think as a company, actually here I'm just trying to be supportive, but actually we are not in a position to talk about diplomacy. But as a multiple national company, I think a few things we are doing. First, I think we are helping different countries. I think globally we are building advancing infrastructure which make every industry, including science and research, more easier. You don't have to physically meeting people. You can do a lot of information exchange, idea exchange by the latest technologies like video conference, which enable our latest 5G network and fiber network. And of course, for some of the science that require a lot of data, like our cloud storage, AI technology, we're helping definitely contribute to research in terms of all this kind of research require massive data. Yeah, that's something we're going to do. Another thing is we also, by leveraging infrastructure, we also encourage and not so encourage, but we also deploy and distribute our R&D globally, not only in China. We have 16 R&D centers globally, and they also leverage all this kind of infrastructure technology to come into each other, and we are developing and research towards the same goal. Last but not least, probably I want to talk about talent development. So no matter what kind of status your country are, developed country, developing country, I think if you want to have the future, you must have the talent, ready talent. And we have a massive, and we have all kinds of talent development program in different countries. Like for South Africa, we have our LEAP frame, which means 4 different layers. From L stand for leadership, and E for employment, and we have P for public. So every year we train about 20,000 plus staff, and some of them are really becoming to a higher level, like getting certificates and become learn the knowledge and apply to the research area. So yeah, that's all for now for me. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Manzali.
Thank you so much. Just to start, I come from the generation of diplomats, even if I don't look so old maybe, but from the diplomats that they grow up with still the mobile phone that had this round and you put the number like that. So in my ministry, actually, science and diplomacy, despite Switzerland is investing very much in research and technology, science and diplomacy, they were two worlds that they were running in parallel. Till, I would say, 10 years ago, a bit more probably, where we started to understand that we had the feeling that we were lagging behind. And we were definitely concerned because we were just not updated. Science was running so fast that we were not following, simply. And the dialogue started more deeply between leaders, political leaders, between scientists, between diplomats, to understand what could have been useful in order to support, in particular, governance. Because we noticed that definitely there was a need of sharing between this world and create a common platform where in a way science could become a useful tool to support also governance and leaders in general. So in 2019, Switzerland created with the city of Geneva a platform called, a foundation in reality called GESDA. I think, I don't know, probably you know, it's today a global, I would say, platform And JESDA, as the Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator, has the objective really exactly to anticipate, as is said in the name, technology advances and breakthrough, in order to make sure that that this world, they run together for the benefit of everybody. Today, JESDA has, as I said, three main objectives. One is the global summit that we have in Geneva every year, where leaders and scientists and diplomats, they can meet. We have in JESDA one, we call it a radar, that is monitoring what's going on in science and technology in general. And then we have another platform which try to anticipate breakthrough in technology and science in order to serve, actually, policymaker leaders in order, as I say, to have a much better governance globally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. If it's of any salutary consequence to you, Ambassador, when I did my PhD, I had to store my information and type it up on a typewriter and put it on floppy disks. Now, I'm sure I'm sort of 65 now, so I suppose my generation would know what that meant. So it really is, we've moved forward on that. And so, by the way, we met with the JESDA president and doing extraordinary work. And we'll be visiting with the Director General and the Minister sometime next year for the incredible work on the anticipator work that they're doing as well, you know.
If you let me just comment,
yeah.
But it's really incredible because I have today 2 kids and they don't know, for them the world is like that. But I'm from that generation and I'm lucky that I saw how fast we change. And also my degree and so on, I had no computer at the beginning. But it was the time where we started to have an email, to have a computer, something that was, today, frankly speaking, is something old.
Old, yeah.
And I was looking at my colleague here, because this is very nice also. It's amazing.
It's marketing, of course.
You squeeze it and you have a book. And I'm still with the paper.
I know.
How is possible?
Can we go to Ambassador Pinheiro?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're also still with the papers going on, but I think both technologies have to still coexist. Anyway, thank you very much. We are very proud to be here today representing Cuba in this country, but especially in this forum, Science Forum, in which obviously the perspective is more on the global south and how we can develop our countries, our nations, how can we move forward as humankind, having the science guide us through the development. So for Cuba, for example, it has been a difficult path to take this journey, this path of science development, coming from a country with limited resources, with challenges imposed on us by foreign powers. But we have been able to, I think, with a certain degree of success, or a wide degree of success, to develop our own capabilities in science and research. And I think it has to do especially with the necessity of having a very strong political will to develop science in the country and having it be the guide of society. So for Cuba has been a great experience. It has come, of course, since the triumph of the revolution in 1959. One of the first ideas of our commander Fidel Castro was to develop human capabilities in the country. So we didn't have enough professors, enough teachers to get to it. So we sent our people abroad. Of course, socialist countries in those years were our main recipients of Cuban students, but those came back and prepared our own people throughout the year. So, for example, today, just to give you an idea of how big the human capabilities are, prepared capabilities are in Cuba, Since 1959, we've prepared more than 1.5 million university graduates. And of those, we have more than 100,000 of them who are directly working on science development and research in the country. So that speaks to the necessity and that the society needs to have, first of all, human capacity to develop. Next, of course, there is the political will to invest in infrastructure. And that's something, for example, we had to do, let's say, because of need, but also following a principle for our country, which is, as the moderator was gladly saying, with the spirit of solidarity and sharing with the world whatever we have been able to achieve. And that's been the guideline of our development. For example, today in Cuba, we are able to produce locally 12 of the 17 vaccines that the health system requires on a yearly and a daily basis. Thank you. So that's quite a big achievement because we are able to have a vaccination range scope for more than 98% of the Cuban population. But not only that, we also cater for the medicine production along the lines of 121 production items of medicines in the country, which cover roughly 65 to 70% of the necessities of the country in terms of medicine. Of course, this is all very complicated to maintain. It takes a lot of resources to have it in place. But of course, it's part of the priority that the country gives to this. So in terms of solidarity and how we shared with the world, especially from a perspective from the South, it's very well known, Cuba's cooperation programs throughout the world, especially in Africa and Latin America. And I would like just to briefly mention that we have been able in the past years to have to transfer technologies of what we have been able to develop in the country. We have developed joint ventures with, of course, countries very strong in science like China, but also in Europe, UK, but definitely in Africa. For example, in Tanzania, we've been able to have joint ventures to produce larvicides to attack the mosquito larvae. And also, for example, we have been able, and we are very willing to develop joint programs with different countries from the South to develop our own trademarks from the medicines. Coming down to South Africa, just to quickly have an idea, South Africa and Cuba have had a long-standing relation, close relation, brotherly relation, and of course science has not been away from that. I just want to take from the Minister Nzimande's remarks on the opening of this great forum. He was talking about how the science in a country like South Africa should be aimed at contributing to have a sovereign research agenda aimed at what are the African objectives. Also to develop capabilities and capacities locally and contribute to preparedness for pandemics, which nowadays is a huge necessity. But also the possibility of having the production of vaccines locally. So those are areas in which Cuba has been able to exchange quite extensively with South Africa, but also we are in the midst of signing an agreement in order to develop some capacities in biotechnology, nanotechnology, exchange of researchers, and not only between our ministries of science, but also we have been able to sign an agreement with the Technology Innovation Agency here in South Africa in order to promote information and knowledge sharing. So that's the perspective from Cuba. Mainly, in just coming to the end, it's to share what we have with our commons in the world, because science should not be privative of the first world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Just before we go to UD, just to say that I visited Cuba, I had the privilege of visiting Cuba with a number of other colleagues, and it's an amazing people and in a beautiful country and just an incredible history and the innovation with a small population in an island that is isolated in many ways in biotechnology, in particular on vaccine production, virology, and that they're really doing extraordinary work. So I would really encourage colleagues. I'll do marketing for you, Ambassador. if you have a chance, visit the island. It's just the most extraordinary historical experience. Difficult to get to, but once there, it's just amazing. May I go to Yudi? 3 minutes, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. In the context of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation Brussels office, I think how we're looking at science diplomacy is that we have a very long-standing relationship with the European Union. It's almost right at the beginning of our democracy that we signed an MOU, or rather an agreement, at a country level with the EU, and we were one of the first countries that the European Union signed a science and technology agreement with. This allowed us to have very long traditional relationships in the context of our researchers being able to access one of the largest research fund within the world, from the world, which is the Horizon Europe. It's called a framework program, and we've been successfully accessing this for quite a number of years, almost 26, 27 years now. But in the context of the geopolitics right now, we see that as an opportunity also for South Africa to strongly, especially the office, to strongly advocate for the trust relationship between Europe and Africa to be strengthened. But by strengthening that, it means also in the thematic areas of research that we are participating in. Europe is talking of green transition, and the transition consists of a large number of the critical raw materials that they need to actually do that transition. And those minerals sit in the continent. And this is where we also advocate for a trusted but different relationship where we change the modus operandi of cooperation between the north to the south to say these resources lie in the global south, and the way in which we have to extract, that Europe has to extract them, we have to have ways in which we have benefits for the South African people and the African continent at large. And we are engaging in extensive dialogues of this beneficiation. We've seen this dialogues translating into successful commitments by the European Union. We've seen it at the EU-SA Summit in March this year. We've also seen it at the Global Gateway in October this year, where the EU committed funds towards South Africa for a green transition to the tune of 12 billion euros. This, in a sense, is to say that the relationship with Europe, they see South Africa as a trusted partner. They see us as a continent as well, as a partner where they want to have equitable partnerships. But the office also tries to advocate for much broader engagements in terms of the equitable partnership, such as mobility. There's still huge challenges of mobility in terms of researchers going to Europe. And by talking to mobility, it's like the simple fact of visas. African researchers struggle to actually go to Europe and do research, but also in terms of research issues of data, because traditionally data was extracted from the continent and processed in Europe for the benefit of Europe. And this is where we are advocating a lot more to say it needs to change and it needs to be more equitable when we talk about trust relations. We're seeing that change in some of the commitments that Europe is doing, and they see science also as the foundation for all areas of cooperation. So science diplomacy connects quite closely now with economic diplomacy, which then in turn talks to addressing, especially for South Africa, the societal challenges that we have and the global ones as well. I'll pause there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. And last but not least, Ambassador Zanai, if you could share some thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Derek. First and foremost, I apologize for arriving late, fashionably late. And I just want to say that this is no disrespect to you, Derek, as well as to the panelists on the stage as well, that I asked my finance minister and my chief of protocol, that is my wife, about what I should be wearing today for this panel. And she insisted that I should not have any tie on because I'm supposed to be speaking to a bunch of scientists and technopreneurs, etc., etc. So I thought that this is really no disrespect to the panelists as well as to our host, DSTI as well, for not wearing a tie, but I'm just trying to fit in. And secondly, unlike Charles, I just have an iPad Pro. I think, Charles, you would remember, of course, you were in Singapore before. I think you spent some time in Singapore. And the reason why I mentioned Charles, because I think that Huawei probably represents one of the stakeholders that plays such an important role to Singapore's approach towards embedding STI into policy. Because we feel that at the end of the day, STI is not just a matter for the scientists or for the policymakers, but they are particularly important for the stakeholders, and that includes, of course, all the corporate leaders and corporations that are established in Singapore. So, in fact, Huawei, just a short announcement, in 2023 was awarded for the first time ever, that we awarded a corporate leadership in technopreneurship as well. And that's because of Huawei's contributions to developing local skills and talents in Singapore. And for that, I think it exemplifies the sort of approach that we have, which is multidimensional, which is multi-systemic, which is, of course, incorporates almost all players in the industry as well as an ecosystem. So that's the sort of what we have right now. But Singapore did not start the way it did 60 years ago. We're just about maybe 30 years older than fully democratic South Africa. You're about 31, 32 years old. We're 60 years old. But it wasn't until 1991 that we had our first national technology plan. And it was for a 5-year cycle. You have a decadal cycle here. We have a quincentennial, I can't even pronounce the word, quincentennial, which is 5-year cycle for the National Technology Plan. But interestingly, in 2010, we decided to call it, instead of having just a National Technology Plan, which seems to focus a lot on science of technology, we decided to call our plan Research, Innovation, and Enterprise Plan. And you can see why. Because of the fact that we wanted to emphasize the nexus between research and the value chain towards innovation, and most importantly, the translation of technology into commerce, into economic value add, and that's enterprise. So since 2010, we've been having what we call the Research, Innovation, Enterprise Plan. And it's for 5 years. The other thing that we decided was that in order for us to make it happen in Singapore and to have science, technology, and innovation lead not just economic planning, but also in terms of everything that we do, including public administration, we must make sufficient investments. And we decided since 1991 to invest at least 1% of our GDP every year on STI. And so for this particular cycle, which we're coming towards the end of it, it's called RIE 2025, we've invested about Singapore $28 billion. And for the next cycle, of course, which will be coming out, we haven't announced the figure yet, but we are going to maintain the tradition of spending at least 1% of GDP for developing activities to promote research, innovation, and enterprise. So that's the other aspect of it, which is important for us. And the other 2 elements or 3 elements that are important for our approach.
Maybe just 1 minute, Ambassador.
Sure. Just to ensure that there is close alignment amongst all the different stakeholders. I mentioned Huawei, but government and, of course, universities and research institutes, there must be close alignment amongst all the different agenda. And the last, which is important, which has been mentioned by many of my colleagues here, is international cooperation. Of course, it is an important aspect of the way we approach it. There is a very important Zulu saying, which I wanted very much to mention. It's Izandla Zia Gazana, which is... which at the end of the day is what we're all about, and that's the reason why we're here. So thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Ambassador. So colleagues, as we pull together towards the end of this panel, because of brevity of time and the economy of this particular session, can I just re-emphasize the importance of the role that science diplomacy can play in making us aware as a species about our mutual vulnerability, and that the fact that we have custodian stewardship over the future of the planet, that we have a responsibility to think not about only tribal, ethnic, local, national, or even regional problems, but planetary scale questions facing humanity for the next millennia. And these are questions about climate change, about ecological devastation, the restoration of the biosphere, protection for future generations of the inheritance of the earth that we've simply borrowed from our ancestors as well. And science diplomacy can play a very powerful instrumental role in fostering a sense that we have to collaborate, to cooperate, to share, and to include everyone in a common future for humanity and, of course, for all species on our planet as well. And I do think that message comes out clearly from the work from the private sector, as well as the work from the public sector as well. So can I ask you to give the panel an applause, a round of applause. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you. They may leave the stage, please. Thank you. Right, colleagues, I am reminded by the organizers, Dan and Vinny, that we are running against the clock. So I'm going to ask the next panelists to come on the stage. Professor Remy Queron, who is the president of International Network of Governmental Science Advisors. Thank you, Remy. Good to see you. Yes. And can you give him a round of applause, please? And Professor Antoine Petit, who is the CEO of CNRS, France's leading national research scientific center, please. And then I also have another colleague from the Embassy of Tunisia, who is the Chief Science Counselor, Ms. Hasna Tizawi. Am I correct? Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I was a bit tongue-twisted with that one. And these will be the three colleagues on the panel. Thank you very much. This panel, I believe, the rubric that we've been given, I've just had a look at it now, is celebrating science diplomacy with impact, the efficacy, how it sort of resonates with society as well. An important topic, what impact are we making through science diplomacy on society as well? And we got a really lovely panel to make some commentaries on that. As I said in the beginning, we know we are living in a very turbulent world where there's a great deal of polarization, and very powerful centrifugal forces are at work in driving away the common bonds that we used to have not many years from now. And we must find a way through science, diplomacy, and science itself to re-emphasize again those foundational principles that underpin what we think a global humanity can count on and rest on if we're going to survive in a future world. I'm a prodigy of the 1970s and 80s, and I do remember during that time I was at university, I think I'd finished university in the early 1980s, and I do remember, and this is a time of the Cold War. Some of your colleagues, my colleagues will remember, it was really tough times where there were real threats of extermination as a result of nuclear weapons proliferation, and of course the standoff between the then Soviet Union and the United States and its allies and so on. So it's a really difficult period in human history, and I remember we campaigned against nuclear disarmament, for nuclear disarmament at the time. And a group of scientists at the time, Professor Toon, Carl Sagan, famous cosmologist, Ted Postel, they wrote a very interesting article that caught my attention, and then a series of conversations started in about 1983 till 1984 and they co-wrote some of these pieces on nuclear proliferation and the effects that nuclear war may have on us as a species. And as a young man at the time, and I was a political activist, it struck me as very profound that if these two countries, they wrote in a number of papers, if the United States and the Soviet Union then did a nuclear exchange, the explosive power of these new weapons, particularly your thermonuclear weapons, hydrogen bombs, would not only annihilate, kill, in the first 3 minutes, 100 million people of targeted cities that, as we speak right now, are targeted between now Russia, of course, and the United States as well. But in the coming months, they were writing about the theory of nuclear winter, that it would raise soot, dirt, because of the burning of big cities like London and Paris and Moscow and St. Petersburg, and push that into the stratosphere. And in the next 3 to 6 months, this will effectively, create a dust particle belt around the Earth that will make sure that the radiation, sun radiation, then gets deflected back, away from the Earth. And global temperatures will start dropping, and they calculated this. I still follow that research to this very day. And as a young man, then fighting for democracy in my country, I was perturbed, deeply disturbed by this idea that two men, in this case, Gorbachev and Reagan, could decide on the future not just of their own citizens, which is an audacious thing to do, but of the rest of humanity. Because, of course, if global temperatures drop between 2 degrees centigrade, it would mean that photosynthesis would effectively be, and agricultural crops will collapse, and of course, people will die with famine in southern Africa, Australia, Latin America, and so on, people that had nothing to do with nuclear war as well. And these scientists then developed a simulation. I still have it on my laptop, literally to show the effects of this. They showed this to Mikhail Gorbachev, and they showed this to Ronald Reagan. You can read up about this, And the effects of showing the catastrophic extermination effects of this led to the Reykjavik summit in 1986, I think it was, in Iceland, where they signed a treaty to drastically reduce, and they were aiming even at some stage to eliminate nuclear weapons in these two countries. They didn't quite succeed in the latter part, but the first part as well. Now, I don't want to give you scary stories of what we should do through the language of science to illustrate why we need to look after this earth. But I've got a panel of 3 colleagues here that are hopefully, in the language of science, may cast some light on, in their experience, what are the big things that you would like to highlight to the audience as closing thematic, ideas on the role of science diplomacy making impact on the real world? Thank you. Remy? Oh dear. Is there a mic that works, guys?
Yeah. That's good. First, I'd like to thank the organizers. It's really a pleasure to be back here at the forum. And as you see, I'm a scientist, or maybe a former scientist. I have no tie. so it's good for that. And then that's my note, handwritten, not even typed. So it's kind of the dark ages, probably, as you'll see it. So science diplomacy. Science diplomacy is more important than ever. Many speakers, and you mentioned that as well, Derek, the world, a lot of turmoil in the world. The geopolitical situation is very, very, very challenging. So what can we do in terms of action-driven type of activities, so that science diplomacy is more effective? First, you need to build capacity on science advice. That's the bedrock of science diplomacy. We're lucky, we have INGSA. I'm the president of INGSA, the International Network for Government Science Advice. Maybe I'll ask in the room here, who is a member of INGSA? Can you raise your hand? So we still have work to do.
Yeah.
Not enough members. It's free. And we are present in 130 different countries in the world. So it's building science advice worldwide. And it all started here in South Africa. The first chapter of INCSA was established in South Africa. Now we have chapters all over the world. And really the objective is building capacity in science advice. So we're working on that. We still have a lot of work to do, because we have not reached the target yet. The other aspect, science diplomacy. So what have we decided to do, the Quebec government, is to create chair in science diplomacy. Last year at this meeting, on the closing panel, I mentioned, we'd like to have one of these chairs that will involve South Africa. So we did launch a program. Finally, 8 chairs have been accepted and we'll fund them. 2 of them have partnership with South Africa. So one is on the food sustainability, McGill and University of Pretoria to start with, but of course we'll expand over time. The second one, I'm very pleased about that as well, indigenous knowledge and science diplomacy. How do you take consideration of that? So that's with CSIR here in South Africa and a university in the northern part of Quebec. So over the next few years, we really hope to create a network of experts based in university. Of course, they work with foreign affairs, with ministry, but I think it's important to have experts in university that will specialize on various aspects of science diplomacy. Could be food sustainability, it could be the governance of artificial intelligence. Now, in closing, I need you all. We need you all. Science is under attack, various parts of the world. We need to interact. I think the world collaboration was used a few times in the earlier session. That's not enough. We need partnership. We need to be a real partner. Now the partnership between Canada and the US, say we have good days and bad days as partners, bad days with these partners. But we could have good days with you, and we need to work all together globally to make sure that science will prevail and real data will prevail. So we need to work with you, and I'm sure that South Africa will support us over the next few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Madame Tazri.
Thank you so much. So actually, I will be speaking on behalf of my ambassador, Mrs. Karima Bardawi, who is taking part in the celebration of International Day of Solidarity with Palestine. And actually, I will start with a simple truth. Nowadays, science diplomacy is no longer a luxury. Actually, it's a necessity. It's a need. Our world is shaped with pandemics, climate change, technology gaps, and Africa cannot afford to be just a passive receiver of technology, of research, and so on. We have to be part and co-architect of the global knowledge system and able to shape it. And I think that science diplomacy is actually an effective tool to address common challenges and to achieve peace, development, and integration in Africa. It's not actually an abstract concept, but also, actually a practical a practical tool that enables us actually to build the Africa we want. And Mr. Moderator, you just spoke about the science diplomacy language. And actually, science diplomacy is a framework that gives us a universal language. It's where scientists from Tunisia can speak with someone, a scientist, of course, a researcher from Nairobi or South Africa without the need of translation, because science doesn't need translation. And also, I think that diplomacy meets with science because, and science needs diplomacy because it's much easier to negotiate about some scientific issue and to agree about it when you do it with a diplomatic smile, I think, and not only a scientific, serious attitude.
Yeah,
Absolutely, I think. And also, science diplomacy is not only, I think, a kind of or a form of soft power, but also it's real smart power that can help us transform Africa. And From a Tunisian point of view, actually, as you know, Tunisia invested a lot in education and research, and our university, they are having a lot of cooperation with the university and scientific research centers across Africa. And lately we signed with South Africa joint plan roadmap for cooperation in science and technology. It was in July this year. So in this spirit, actually, of cooperation and shared solution, Tunisia contributed also in the shaping, let's say, of the continental framework, such as TISA 2034, the African Space Policy, and the African Open Science Platform. And actually advancing African science diplomacy, it will enable us to speak with one voice, build African value chains, strengthen mobility, and attract investment. And I will finish with this, actually.
Thank you.
I think that we need to have an effective African science diplomacy, and to have that, I think we need to, first of all, adopt an anticipatory approach, and we be ahead of the innovation to come in the future. I read just this week that a company, it's Amazon, they expelled 14,000 of their workers. I mean, are we ready for that? I don't think so. And keep in mind that in Africa, our rate of unemployment is the highest, I think, in the world. I think we are not ready to face the AI and the innovation to come. Yeah. Also, our science diplomacy has to focus on research and science done for Africa by Africa, because in this case, it will address the African real needs and challenges. And finally, we have to adopt an inclusive approach and invite all the stakeholders to take part in the shaping of our science diplomacy, policies, and strategies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madame. Monsieur le Président.
Yes, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm happy to be back. Several panelists mentioned already, but we really live a strange time where science has never been so questioned, even by the president of the first scientific nation of the world, which is crazy. Disinformation pollutes our life. But I think we have to be optimistic, because on the other hand, there is a need for more knowledge, a need for more science, a need for more objective data. And I really think that our role as scientists is precisely to try to answer to these questions, to recall that science is not belief, that science is based on consensus, on international consensus, and we have to share this with citizens. And for that, I think that international relations are absolutely key. And I'm very happy to announce you that this morning we signed an agreement with Wits University about the creation of an international research center. And we have only 6 others all worldwide, which is a really selective tool. And I am sure that thanks to this center, we will develop, of course, relations between WITS and CNRS, but larger, we will develop relations between South Africa scientists and French and European scientists. And clearly, science diplomacy is also a key dimension. In these three aspects, Remy mentioned what we call sometimes science in diplomacy, but we also plan to identify what we call science for diplomacy, where in fact, if you look, for instance, for polar research, science, in some sense, help diplomacy, because we do not have choice. There is only one South Pole and one North Pole also, but clearly we need to collaborate, and science for diplomacy is key. But a last dimension which is important also is what is mentioned sometimes as diplomacy for science. And in particular, all what allows to exchange students to foster mobility is absolutely key. We need that our young scientists go abroad to see what happens elsewhere. You mentioned Cuba, but there are a lot of examples. And the last point, which appears very important for scientists, is infrastructures. Infrastructures are now the main infrastructures are international. We have the famous example of CERN in Geneva or EMBL, but you have one here with the Square Kilometer Array Facility, which is an international infrastructure, but led by South Africa and Australia, which is in the astronomy field. And these infrastructures are also magnets for talents, and they also contribute deeply to science diplomacy. So just to conclude, and it will be too long, I think that we really need more science. We need more science diplomacy, and also we need more excellence, because excellence is required to be believed by people and by decision makers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Petit. Colleagues, can I ask you once again to give them a round of applause for a wonderful panel here? Thank you, colleagues. And I'm done with my bit here. Thank you. Benny?
Thank you, Dr. Swartz. Thank you, panelists, for that really stimulating discussion. Maybe let me just pause. Some audience interaction. Has anyone had any ideas about the eyes from your perspectives? Any words that come to mind for Science Forum this year? No. Okay. Iconic. There we go. Thank you, Dr. Swartz. We're now going to move into a really exciting component of the closing segment of Science Forum South Africa. A few years ago, the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation set up a platform called the Science Diplomacy Capital for Africa. And you will see its branding around the Science Forum. They part of the CSIR and co-host the Science Forum with the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. And when I was listening to the panel, it also reminded me why we set up this platform. It's meant to be a meeting spot to engage in discussions on science diplomacy with our partners. The city of Tshwane, that you are in, has the highest number of embassies, high commissions, international organizations on the African continent. So it serves as a perfect melting pot to have some of these science diplomacy discussions. And instituted from that, we have these annual Science Diplomacy Awards, which we present at Science Forum South Africa. And of course, these awards are in various categories. They actually honor individuals and institutions that have served as inspiration for science diplomacy in South Africa, on the African continent, and globally. So they really have walked the talk for science diplomacy, and that's why we honor them. I would like to call Director General Cele to the stage to take a seat. I would also, part of Science Forum is we have a young team of interns that have been participating in Science Forum. And to help DG award these presentations, I would like to call two interns from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ms. Lishle Mziza and Mr. Tika Kombo, who really are young science diplomats themselves. So thank you. And now we're going to go into also calling Ms. Hunadi Mokhelaga to the stage. She is from the CSIR, a private sector specialist and member of the Science Diplomacy Capital for Africa Steering Committee member, and she's going to help us with the awards for today. So the first category of awards is the Science Diplomacy Award for Science Advice. And we have two nominations or winners in this category. The first one I'd like to call to the stage is Dr. Cara D. Wright of the South African Medical Research Council. For representing South Africa and contributing scientific advice to numerous global platforms aimed at public health, especially in the field of environmental health. Congratulations. I will also request the winners to take a seat on stage. Congratulations again. Our next awardee in this category goes to Miss Nicole Duplessis. Okay, congratulations. Ms. Duplessis from the National Research Foundation, South Africa. Environmental Observation Network for strategic coordination and leadership of Ocean 20 engagement during South Africa's G20 presidency, and also inputs on marine and maritime sector. So congratulations.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I will be presenting the Science Diplomacy for Excellence in Science Award, and we have two recipients in this category. And the first recipient is the Nuclear Medicine Research Infrastructure, NUMERI. Based at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital in Pretoria, for its concerted efforts to build global partnerships, including Anchor Center for International Atomic Energy Agency's Rays of Hope, Cancer for All initiative to advance excellence in nuclear medicine. The award will be received by Prof. Mike Siteche, the head of NUMERI. The second recipient in this category is the South African Large Telescope, SALT, Consortium. SALT, over the past 20 years, has brought together partners from North America, Europe, and Asia to ensure South Africa's investment in constructing and operating their South African Large Telescope consistently contributed to deepening our understanding of the mysteries of the universe at the cutting edge of optical astronomy. The award will be received by Dr. Ross Skeleton. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to present the Science Diplomacy for African Agenda Award. We also have two recipients in this category. And the first recipient is Dr. Happy Sithole. Dr. Sithole, Center Manager of South Africa's National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System, NICIS, hosted at the CSIR, who for more than a decade has passionately led efforts to ensure scientists in the South African Development Community, SADC, has access to and are trained to exploit cyber infrastructure resources in the era of data-intensive science. The second recipient in this category is the African Institute in Indigenous Knowledge Systems. This is a partnership hosted at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, which recently was proclaimed as a UNESCO Category 2 center, recognizing its efforts to ensure that the promotion of indigenous knowledge is an integral part of the African science, technology, and innovation agenda. Ensuring our uniquely African science competence will contribute to the well-being of all Africans. The award will be received by Prof. Jonas Sileti.
Congratulations to all the winners. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Schwartz for a quick engagement, short engagement with the winners. Thank you.
Hi, colleagues. I promised you I'm not going to say much, except to ask if each of the colleagues, starting from Professor Jonas, to come up for just 1 minute, to crystallize what essentially, embodied their work and what it means for science, for Africa and for the world. Prof. Jonas, thank you very much.
Good afternoon. This award is an affirmation and an empowerment for the African Indigenous Knowledge Institute. The award highlights the pivotal role of the African Institute for Indigenous Knowledge Systems in reshaping the global knowledge landscape, advancing justice, and enhancing Africa's competitive advantage. It is a global seal of approval, elevating IKS to a privileged partner with UNESCO. It will enable the IKS to access vast international networks of experts and academic chairs, significantly strengthening the capacity and funding of the Institute. The IKS already is fulfilling the mandate of the UNESCO. It's not going to, it's already fulfilling the mandate. It positions South Africa as a global leader in indigenous knowledge, as a geographical advantage area like astronomy. The IKS will contribute to the promotion of cultural sovereignty and empowering of knowledge holders as co-creators of knowledge in an equitable governance of knowledge.
Thank you, Prof. Could I ask my colleague to come up?
Thank you so much for this honor. I am deeply humbled to receive this award, which at its core is a true commitment to service for science for society. It's really to ensure that evidence informs decisions that protect our people's health, well-being, and futures. My work has been strengthened by extraordinary collaborators across South Africa, Africa, and the world, and by the unwavering support of the South African Medical Research Council, the University of Pretoria, and many dedicated partners across the world. This award reflects our shared belief that science must be actionable, accessible, and centered on our most vulnerable populations. Whether advancing climate health research, shaping heat health early warning systems, strengthening air quality governance, or supporting global dialogues, I am inspired every day by the possibility of turning evidence into impact. Thank you for recognizing this collective effort. Let us continue to ensure that science guides policy, fosters equity, and builds a healthier, more resilient future for us all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very appreciative of this award. When we were asked to coordinate the Ocean 20 for the year, I didn't think that it would end with one of my colleagues up on stage with President Ramaphosa at the Social Summit, handing over the declaration. I think this really just positioned both South Africa and the Ocean 20 social engagement group within the G20 space as quite equal to some of the other groups such as Women 20 and Youth 20 that have been going on for 10, 15 years already. And I think we provided that ocean voice, that ocean community within that space. And just personally, to be on stage with Yona, who was there at the start of my journey, is really impactful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so kindly, Chair, and thanks to the DG. On behalf of Nuclear Medicine Research Infrastructure, I would like to say all South Africans and Africans should be proud to have this infrastructure. This infrastructure is a leading multi-center studies on improving cancer care, on novel radiopharmaceuticals, and on, of course, this infrastructure from partnering with IAEA, AU, World Health Organization, and then of course the EU, to which we are doing many works with. We are saying that many more things are still to come, and these are the things that science diplomacy will do to improve the training and capacity. As the speakers have mentioned, that Africa shouldn't consume, but it should export what we can do best here, especially given our diversity in our diseases. As this award is here, I would like to say NUMERI is leading the National Cancer Research strategy, as Claudina and Rakesh will be aware, and that will again continue to impact our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to really thank the organizers, the DG, and everyone who's recognized SALT, the Southern African Large Telescope, through this award. SALT is now 20 years old, and its excellence over this period has really been sustained through the partnerships that led to SALT's development in the first place, and its continued ability to achieve scientific excellence. We have 8 international shareholders, but in South Africa, locally, it's really the DSTI and the NRF that have played an incredible role in supporting it all the way through. And that has enabled us to achieve some of our goals, not only in pursuing scientific discovery with our partners and with astronomers throughout the world, but also having an impact on the local community, having an impact on education in South Africa. And I think SALT has played a very important role, which I'd like to highlight, in scientific leadership in South Africa and daring us to dream big and aim for the stars. So things like the SKA mid-telescope, which we were awarded later, I think may not have happened if SALT had not really taken that leadership role and driven astronomy in South Africa forward. So thank you, everyone, for recognizing this.
Good afternoon, and I would like to really thank the committee for recognizing the efforts that the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure has taken in advancing the development of cyber infrastructure in the continent. And I would like to also thank the Department of Science and Technology to buy into this initiative. I think the impact really for this is that right at the beginning, when South Africa started investing into cyber infrastructure, 2007, we started at a modest computational capacity of 2.5 teraflops. But immediately, as part of the DNA of South Africa, we never just saw ourselves as advancing alone. And we thought immediately with Africa, with that little capacity. And that's where really the journey started, because we realized that the challenges that we face, no one nation can be able to address them alone. And even the opportunities that are coming, for us to be able to leverage them, we need to be able to work as a collective. And I could say the impact today, since the ministers bought into this, there has been good collaboration amongst the SADC countries and even the SKA partner countries. And what we can see at the end of the day is that each and every country now in SADC, all the 14 member countries have got high-performance computing and trained people in those countries, 2 coming in this year to be able to complete the 16, and all the SKA partner countries have got these facilities. And it puts us in a better space to be able to start looking at the challenges that are being presented by the evolution of like your artificial intelligence. So we really thank the committee for recognizing these efforts. Thank you.
Colleagues, I guess that brings us to a close. I see a lot of young people here, and presumably you are thinking about your own careers and possibilities there too, in science and so on. And I hope, like I think all of my colleagues, that one day you will be, also become leading scientists, leading the frontiers of science and technology, and helping us to manage our planet, our people and other species more responsibly. So may I ask colleagues just to give one round of applause and thank you to these colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again. We go immediately into the next round of winners for the Science Diplomacy Award. Our category is Science Diplomacy for Partnerships, and the first recipient of this award is Dr. Olive Sishana. Dr. Sishana, this is basically in recognition of her immense contribution over her career, notably former CEO of the South African Human Sciences Research Council, former Executive Director, Family and Community Health at the World Health Organization, and former President of the International Social Science Council, to South Africa's full integration into leadership of numerous global science partnerships, especially in social sciences and in the domain of public health. Dr. Shisana is no stranger to our science platforms. Congratulations. The second recipient in this category is Prof. Aldo Struble. The Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Internationalization at the University of Mpumalanga, who in various leadership roles within the South African higher education sector, and most notably as the Executive Director at the National Research Foundation, designed and implemented numerous international partnerships, which of course has enormously benefited the South African NSI, not least those enabled by his contributions to the Global Research Council and Science Granting Council initiatives. Congratulations.
The next category is the Young Science Diplomat category. And we also have 2 recipients in this category. The first recipient is Dr. Bonita de Swart. Program Manager for Strategic Partnerships for Human Capital Development at the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. Dr. Bonita is dedicated in initiating and leading numerous international partnership initiatives which ensure the next generation of African radio astronomers will be among the future Nobel Prize laureates with science from the Square Kilometer Array Radio Telescope. Congratulations. The second recipient of the Young Science Diplomat is Dr. Muchizi Murondo. Dr. Murondo of the Faculty of Health Science of the University of Free State for her activist contributions to advance African science within the Global Young Academy, also developing collaborative international networks in domains as diverse as mental health, digital health, climate change, and health equity and ethics. Congratulations.
Like we did earlier, we are going to have very short interventions from our winners on what this award means to them. So I'll invite Dr. Shoshana to come up. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon for those that invited me and offered me this award. Thank you so much. It really builds on the work that we've been doing globally. I have worked for the COVID-19 initiative, which involved 135 countries with Dr. Jonan, and it has set a precedent for what needs to be done during a pandemic worldwide in terms of access to vaccines, access to diagnostics and therapeutics. It also builds on the work that I did with the BRICS think tank, which I set up the BRICS think tank as a co-chair with the Department of Higher Education and Training, which continues to inform BRICS in terms of the work that the heads of state have to do. In addition to that is building on the work that I'm currently doing with the Commonwealth in all the 5 continents where we're working on gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health, looking at how the health sector can be able to make a contribution. So everything that you have said, I've done before, I must say it's continuing now, and even one more now with the global health architecture. We're busy trying to reform the global health architecture, which includes the World Health Organization, it includes the Global Fund, and so forth. We're thinking about how, together with the Wellcome Trust, we can restructure how they function, particularly when it comes to the issue of data, in terms of sending data overseas or sending data outside of your country. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Shoshana. Prof. Struble?
Esteemed colleagues, dear distinguished partners, it's a truly humbling experience and honor. Thank you indeed. But science diplomacy do not take place in isolation. So I would really like to dedicate this recognition to all the teams and all the networks and all the collaborators during the period of recognition of this award. It is truly significant in many ways. So first, it acknowledges the power of partnerships. It affirms the goodwill of science, and it validates the commitment, leadership, and impact. The highlight of the period of review was certainly with the National Research Foundation, with my time there and at other universities. And I must really highly acknowledge the fundamental leadership, Didi Chele and others, of the DSTI and the NRF. You know, during a period of 5 ministers and 3 CEOs, it's been an interesting process that has always provided inspiration and leadership and truly that environment to share vision. Thank you to the partners who recognize always the potential of South Africa, the forward change thinking, and the true deliberations for our impact going forward. Thank you again, colleagues.
Thank you. Dr. Swart?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say it is really a great honor to receive this award, and it really gives you time to reflect on your career and all the partnerships that you have developed all through these years. So I get a question from my students, which is they always seem to think that I went to the private schools, private universities, but I actually grew up in the Cape Flats, which is an impoverished region or community in South Africa and in Cape Town. And it wasn't easy. And it's a lot of the aspects that we spoke about this week in terms of community engagement. How do we eradicate poverty? How do we get more of the communities involved with STI? That is something that's very passionate in terms of what I want to develop in South Africa, just because I have that exposure to what those communities are facing. And I think that through my personal journey, I've been mentored by, contrary to what most people think, by male counterparts. And I just want to say thank you to those male counterparts, which is Professor Ramesh Bharatram as part of the astronomy desk, and Dr. Bernie Fanarov. And Dr. Bernie Fanarov actually took it on himself when I joined Soreo to mentor him myself. I remember those weekly meetings and Bernie asking me about how I'm doing with making contact with the seaters. And I really want to thank him for that. It was very stressful at the time, but I think that I can now see what all those stressful moments has developed into. And I just want to thank everyone for the support all these years. Thank you.
Dr. Malondo?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to firstly thank the whole DSTI family and its entities for this incredible honor. This award speaks to the agility of youth and the sense of agency for co-creation. In 2024, during the United Nations Summit of the Future in New York, there was a concentrated call for intergenerational collaboration through the adoption of the Pact for the Future. This allows for more experienced scientists and diplomats to collaborate with emerging science diplomats and scientists. If we are to speak of a sustainable development and promoting science diplomacy as encouraged in the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, STISA, we cannot afford to leave our greatest asset, the youth, behind. In continuing to raise the voices of young science diplomats from the Global South, we continue to applaud the various platforms of capacitation that the whole DSTI family provides. I look forward to bringing the agility of youth and the ingenuity of science as we amplify Africa's voice and continue to shape the global agenda and advance the national priorities of our beautiful nation and continent, while also placing science at the center of education, government, industry, and society. Once again, thank you to the selection committee for this honor.
Thank you for that. Congratulations. You may... another round of applause for our winners. The next slide, we're going from awards to those who are over a career, recognition of individual effort over a career to put science at the forefront. And the two recipients in this category is Dr. Lydia Brito, Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences at UNESCO. Dr. Brito is not here, but congratulations to her. I don't see the slide moving. And the next, there we go. So that's Dr. Brito. In fact, Minister Nzimande will be meeting with UNESCO in a few weeks' time, and he will convey the congratulations and the awards to Dr. Brito personally. So congratulations to Dr. Brito. And the next recipient in this category is Dr. Rob Adam, who many of you know, currently advisor of the Square Kilometre Array Observatory, but also a former Director General of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. He's unable to join us, but congratulations to him, and we will convey the award to him. It is tradition for Science Forum South Africa to express our appreciation to those individuals who have made, over the years, important contributions to science diplomacy and are now concluding their mandates, transitioning to new roles. So we have a category of special recognition of awards for these individuals. The first recipient of this award, you've heard on stage earlier in the panel. It's Professor Antoine Petit, Chairman and CEO of CNRS, France's National Center for Scientific Research. Congratulations. Prof. Petit has steered the CNRS as President and CEO since 2018. Congratulations.
We would also like to say thank you to Professor Thandi Mgwebi. Prof. Mgwebi, the outgoing Group Executive Business Advancement at the National Research Foundation, for her contributions over the past decade as a committed champion of Science Forum South Africa. Prof. Mgwebi will assume her new role as Vice Chancellor of Walter Sisulu University on the 1st of January 2026. Additionally, we would also like to say thank you to Ms. Claudina Lutz. Outgoing Director responsible for health innovation at the DSTI, who over the past 2 decades championed South African leadership in numerous bilateral and multilateral medical, science and innovation partnerships. We wish Ms. Lutz all the best in her well-deserved retirement.
This brings us to the last recognition today, and it's a very special one, but also it's a sad note. It would be indeed amiss for Science Forum South Africa 2025 to not pay tribute to the memory and impressive legacy, and really an inspiration to all of us, of the late Prof. Keo, as she was known to many of us, Shirley Motoang, most recently from Nelson Mandela University, whose passion and engaging personality built lasting friendships through science partnerships, and she will be sorely missed by all of us in the NSI. We are indeed honored today by the presence of her family members to receive her recognition as her daughter and her nephew, as well as a business partner, Dr. Razvi Nani. Thank you so much for making time to come and help us remember Prof. Keo. you see a lot of photos in the background, and Prof. Keo really was the life and soul of many of our events, be it Science Forum South Africa and more recently at the G20 Research and Innovation Ministerial. I think many of us have fond memories of her at the event, and she really would be sorely missed by us all. The next set of awards we'll go to, as is tradition at Science Forum South Africa, are our exhibition awards. Thank you, Ms. Honadi, for presenting these awards. A round of applause for Ms. Honadi. So we have two special recognition awards under the exhibition. The first one is a special recognition of the Embassy of Tunisia in South Africa. Congratulations. Tunisia and South Africa share a long-standing relationship, and I think last year and this year they've really been prominent in the science diplomacy space, engaging with the DSTI, and of course having a really nice exhibition stand. I hope you still have time to visit it before you leave, looking at deepening our collaboration and science diplomacy. Congratulations. The next special recognition award for exhibition goes to RIA, which leverages advanced technologies to develop digital application tools and systems for individuals who rely on sign language. Congratulations. Congratulations. Now moving to the top three. In the third place is the Central University of Technology, University Free State. Is there anyone here? Congratulations. Congratulations. The second prize goes to robotics system. You would have seen robotics in the exhibition area. Congratulations. I don't see anyone coming up to receive the award. Anyone from robotics? Okay, unfortunately not. We'll get the award to them. And the winner, drum roll. Thank you. The winner for the best exhibition this year is Mafeking Innovation Hub. This truly is an innovation and technology hub based to support entrepreneurship, startups, and SMEs. Congratulations. So we're coming almost to the end of the program. I know we stand between you and lunch, but this is, as we said, the 10-year anniversary of Science Forum South Africa, and we have a short video to be screened that has been put together through our communications team, just to reflect on the decade of Science Forum.
For decades, South Africa has gathered its brightest minds, boldest innovators, and most passionate advocates for science under one shared vision, igniting conversations about science. In 2015, the Science Forum South Africa was born, an inclusive national platform to spark dialogue, drive collaboration, and place science, technology, and innovation at the heart of development. From township tech hubs to world-class research institutions, from school learners to Nobel laureates, Science Forum South Africa has connected them all because science isn't just for labs, it's for people, communities, for our future. This International Science Forum has become bigger every year and serves as a public platform for South Africa and the continent to engage, debate, and showcase science and technology and innovation. Over 10 years, Science Forum South Africa has grown into Africa's premier science policy, dialogue fostering, continental partnerships, amplifying African voices, and championing homegrown solutions to global changes. The event has attracted thousands of participants since its inception. Scientists, students, academics, politicians, science journalists, the private sector, and civil society.
This Science Forum
is no different.
Is bound to inspire many people about a world of unending possibilities as well as unending opportunities. A world where imagination, innovation, and scientific discovery can allow all of us to dream of a better, more secure, and even a more equitable future.
Today, as we celebrate our 10th anniversary, we honor a legacy built on curiosity, collaboration, and courage. But this is not just a celebration of the past, it's a launch pad for the next decade. The challenges ahead, climate change, health equity, digital transformation, demand even bolder science, deeper inclusion, and unwavering commitment. And Science Forum South Africa will be at the center of it all. Here's to 10 years and to the next chapter of African science led by all of us together.
Indeed, to the next 10 years. We look forward to that. It gives me incredible honor to introduce our Director General, DG Kele, for the closing address of Science Forum South Africa 2025.
Program Director, my sister, Vinnie Pillay, thank you very much, together with Dr. Swars, whom I thought for a moment was a serious scientist. But he is. The Science Forum participants, International Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Minister Professor Nzimande, I would like to welcome you all on the last day of what has been a most successful and productive gathering. Over the past decade, the Science Forum South Africa has expanded in size and ambition. It has acted as a launchpad, providing visibility, legitimacy, and networking opportunities, as well as helping to shape a long-term systemic shift in how science and innovation are conceived in South Africa, Africa, and further abroad. As usual, the Science Forum South Africa has convened a gathering of diverse stakeholders from across the world. It has nurtured a prominent and a connected science community in South Africa and beyond. One where science, policy, society, and industry meet. By making science accessible through an open participation and exhibitions, youth-oriented panels, and public engagement, the Science Forum helps science become a tool for social development, inclusion, and empowerment. The theme for this year's Science Forum South Africa has been igniting conversations, placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, education, industry, and society. We have seen this mantra reflected in various engagements throughout this week. Once again, the forum has reminded us that science is not merely a set of disciplines, but a shared endeavor grounded in openness, dialogue, and a commitment to learning more and improving lives. The conversations we have had, and surely you would agree with us, whether on the future of artificial intelligence, the frontiers of health innovation, the urgent need to develop climate resilience, or the expanding possibilities of space science, reflect a country and a continent that are not waiting to be included in global science, but that are leading their own scientific future and working closely with international partners to address global societal challenges. I would like to mention some of the highlights of this year's Science Forum South Africa. The first of these is a message that resonated throughout the forum. Science has to contribute to inclusive development. It must work for everyone. We were reminded that innovation is meaningful only when it reaches and positively affects the communities that need it most, including emerging scientists, the informal innovation sector, women and young people, and those historically excluded from opportunities in science. In 2025, we again commit ourselves to ensuring that no one is left behind in the knowledge and digital economy. The second message that came through strongly is that Africa is a global leader, not a follower. I think this point has been emphasized. Africa needs to be fully independent and must be allowed to be independent. It must be able to develop its own sovereign research agenda and must be allowed to set its own priorities. While we appreciate international donor funding, but that must not become a binding constraint on the continent. We must be allowed precisely because of its youthful population, its youthful character. Africa is the future of the world, and the world's future is Africa. Our researchers, institutions, and innovators are producing knowledge that is shaping global debates, informing international policy, and solving problems with creativity and resilience. The Science Forum has shown that Africa-led science is essential for taking on global challenges. The panel discussion on strengthening science diplomacy reaffirmed the growing power of international collaboration in science, technology, and innovation. In a world marked by uncertainty, risk, conflict, science remains a trusted bridge for collaboration. Indeed, this affirms the view that science knows no borders. Through partnerships across regions, disciplines, and sectors, we are demonstrating that collaboration is not optional. It is the engine of progress. the importance of local and international partnerships between government, academia, industry, and civil society for science to have a real impact was seen throughout the Science Forum. We have seen that when partners work together, research is more likely to lead to innovation, and innovation leads to impact. To unlock the full potential of science, we need investment, as the ambassador of Singapore indicated. We need investment not only in ideas, but also in the systems, infrastructure, and institutions that turn ideas into change. So as Africa, we must make sure that the STISA 2034 ideals are recognized and they are implemented. All African countries must ensure that we invest at least 1% of our R&D investment and make sure that we also invest in people and infrastructure. And we must not steal. We must not destroy the institutions that form the basis of a well-functioning and effective science system. Because those institutions are crucial, will outlast us, will enable us to turn ideas into change. For me, increased awareness of the growing movement toward an open science and the knowledge sharing was a highlight. In an age where knowledge flows faster than ever before, our success will depend on openness, transparency, and collaboration. Sharing data, tools, and expertise strengthens trust in science and accelerates discovery. Throughout the forum, we explored the transformative potential of emerging technologies such as AI, biotechnology, quantum science, clean energy systems, and space innovation. We also agreed on a fundamental principle that we must harness these technologies responsibly and ethically. And we must ensure that they are developed and governed ethically, transparently, with human-centered values. Innovation should uplift people, not sideline or alienate or oppress them. No message was louder than the voice of our youth. Our young scientists, entrepreneurs, students reminded us that the future is already in the room. To them we say, we hear you. We believe in you, and we should invest in your talent and your potential. Strengthening STEM education and digital skills, empowering youth development and participation, and building ecosystems that boost entrepreneurship are not just good policy, but our obligation. In South Africa, government has declared by the gender-based violence, sexual harassment as a national disaster. So as we celebrate these young people, we want to urge those of us who are in position of power not to take advantage of these young people, not least sexually abuse them. We have to protect them, we have to support them, we have to create an enabling environment in which, especially young women, for centuries in Africa, they were not allowed to be educated, let alone to be exposed to scientific institutions and pursue their dreams in science. We need to create the possibility of all young girls and boys, of course, to have access to quality STEM education and be exposed to digital knowledge and skills and various empowering youth programs. And so we need to build ecosystems that connect science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And this is critical for policy, but it is also an obligation of everyone in the room. Finally, the Science Forum South Africa sent a very clear message that we are on the path from dialogue to action. The conversations we have had here must lead to measurable progress, new collaborations, new discoveries, and new solutions that touch people's lives. The momentum built at this forum must not end here. It must continue in our labs, research facilities, policy frameworks, and communities, and in every partnership forged this week. To the many researchers, innovators, policymakers, community leaders, entrepreneurs, students who came to join in the conversation, thank you so much for showing that science is strongest when it is shared. To our partners from across Africa and around the world, thank you so much for trusting us and trusting your ideas and your commitment to building a truly global scientific community rooted in equality and mutual respect. In any event, science is a global enterprise, and we should make sure that no borders are created. And we must also fight the post-truth, the myths, quasi-science. We now wish you, those who will be traveling back home, please have a travel safely and continue inspiring conversations. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, DG, for those inspirational words to all of us. And we'll continue it not just in the short term, but for the next decade of Science Forum. And I think that's what's important. But I also want to take this opportunity, DG, to thank you, the Deputy Minister and our Minister for your ongoing support and leadership for the NSI and for Science Forum. It's not taken for granted. And it is appreciated not just by the officials, but everyone in the NSI. Some final remarks, I promise. Science Forum South Africa is really a team effort. It's all of you that have made time to be here and participate, so thank you. But also, we have a steering committee led by our Deputy Director General, Dan du Toit. Thank you for your leadership. We have an organizing committee which are made up of institutions in our NSI. Thank you for helping us shape the program. And the special group of interns who are with us, we hope you've been inspired by science, and thank you for all your assistance during this week. And two very special colleagues that I have to say thank you to, Ms. Elelwani Ramabulana and Mr. Sizo Zwane for their tireless efforts to make Science Forum successful. And of course, thank you to our host campus, CSIR, and the Science Diplomacy Capital for Africa. And now I'm going to hand over to the DSTI and NRF choir for some music, and you are invited to the braai on the deck if it's not raining. And to our VIP speakers, you are invited to the Amethyst as well. Thank you. I invite the colleagues to come to the podium. Thanks, Gigi.
Sanborn.